What's happening? We're here with Jason Ritchey, the comedian extraordinaire, Chicago, born, Indiana based, world renowned. How you doing today, man?
I'm alive, man. I'm blessed. We're here. We're doing good. We're great. We're breathing. I'm good.
He started talking like a nigga under the bridge. How long you been doing comedy?
Feels like since 1955. I've been doing comedy since I was 16. 16.
How you get started?
I was back in the day when I was a young black. I was doing actually I was in a speech and drama class in my middle school, and then we started playing Whose Line Is It Anyway, and that's pretty much how I started doing improv. And then I started to film little sketches and shit. We would put them on VHS tapes, and we would screen them in front of our friends after school. And so that's how we would know it would be funny or whatever. And then we started giving that shit to comedians. And then once we were in that realm of comedians, then we was able to, they would sneak us in the comedy clubs so we could do stand-up. And then stand-up, I started doing stand-up probably when I started doing stand-up when I was 16. So to speak, the other shit happened in the 7th grade, but I started doing stand-up when I was 16. I did a talent show and fucking bombed horribly, and didn't do stand-up for a while. I started doing improv and went to the second city. And then when I started back doing stand-up in college, and then eventually ended up going to do stand-up legally on my 21st birthday. But I was still doing stand-up and sketch comedy the whole time. We do college shows and shit.
And when you say improv, is it, for people who don't know, can you explain exactly what improv is?
Well, to the average idiot, improv is when you act out a scene. It's improvised. That's a word that's in the dictionary. It probably means to make up on the spot. So you make up a scene on the spot a lot of the time. And Second City is a school where they train you to become proficient in that aspect of comedy. Sketch comedy and improv and writing.
So was this along about the same time Living Color was at its peak, or around that time?
No, there was no Living Color at that time. There was probably, you talking about when I first started?
Yeah.
No, I first started when Chappelle was doing. I had seen Chappelle a long time ago doing like fucking live at the Fillmore. That was before, I believe that was before Killing Him Softly. And, you know, that shit was, the rest was history after that. So it was around the time of that and Chappelle show era.
What inspired you to get into comedy?
It was the comedy in general was because it was something that was come natural more or less. Because we used to talk shit at lunch and see who was the fucking.
Were you swallowing spit?
No, we was talking shit though, for sure. We were not swallowing saliva. Shit.
Hey, nigga, go ahead.
Don't chop that up. No, we talk shit at lunch, do the dozens, you know.
Yeah.
Man, and see who was the funniest kid in the class, and from there. Probably just, honestly, I don't know. I just felt like it was something I could do after I did it in one aspect. And then I was like, well, let me try to do stand-up. And then I hated stand-up when I did it because I wasn't used to being on stage by myself, just my shit.
Dialing back just a little bit, when you said that y'all would play the dozens, knowing how quick-witted you are, which I'm sure helped you in the improv, did this get you into a lot of altercations or any altercations in school with people who weren't as equipped verbally as you were?
No, it was more of a tool or a weapon to disarm people more so to where they man, I was just fucking with you. I don't know. It was always just like this nigga play too much. Like, all right, fuck this, fuck it, and then just say whatever. But or other times I would use it more so because people would fuck with other people who wasn't as quick with it, I guess, and they thought they was so hot or whatever you want to say. That I'm like, nigga, are you fucking with a motherfucker that don't even be on that like that, nigga? Like, leave that nigga alone. Right, leave that nigga alone. Like I was a fucking a hero or some shit, not really. But I'm like, nigga, you gonna talk about this old lame ass nigga for real? Like, ain't nobody fucking with him.
And you mentioned that when you first started doing stand-up comedy that you didn't like it because you were alone. When did you adapt to it to the point that you did like it?
I probably had to fail a bunch of times before I was like, oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay. Like, you gotta bomb and fuck up and learn from your fuck up. So if you ain't a person that could learn from your failures, then it's not really that type of arena you want to get into. But I started liking it when I was like, wait. At first I was like, man, it's just me. And then after a while I'm like, yeah, it's just me. I can do what the fuck I want to. Like, I can say what I want to say. But you get to a point where you realize you can start doing that more than just trying to come up there and say shit that you think is funny. You start saying shit that people think is funny. Not you, just not what you want to come up there and say, hey, I think this is funny, guys. No. Them niggas gonna laugh at all the parts you ain't think they was gonna laugh at. And then I think that started being funny to me too. Like, nigga, you ain't shit. Like, you learn all over every day, over and over, that you ain't shit. But I don't know.
And this around the time you were 16, around that time. So this was like what, 74? Yeah, 1974. Who was some of your who was your inspiration? Lenny Bruce and no. At this point in time, when you're 16, who was your inspiration, or did you have any?
Yeah, for sure. It was like a lot of the classic greats, like Eddie Murphy. We was listening to Eddie Murphy's CDs, well, they were CDs at the time. The albums, we'll just say they were albums, right? Listen to albums, like Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox. I used to watch a lot of Red Fox. Of course, Dave Chappelle, like I said. You know, Jim Carrey. I was a big fan of Jim Carrey coming up. Like, all his movies. I don't know, I could pretty much say recite them all front to back, you know, beginning to end. But probably a lot of conventional things influenced my comedy, probably like cartoons and shit like that. And I don't know. I play a lot of video games and shit too, so that's probably like why I'm animated like that on stage too, because I might be emulating some shit I seen that I thought was funny.
In your early days, being that you had inspirational people in comedy, did you find yourself like mimicking their styles or anything before you found your own way?
Probably so, not intentionally. I think all comedians do, yeah, like you said. So people always be like, I don't know if it was some racist shit and they just saying some shit because they don't really know comedians. They're like, you're the next Chris Rock. You remind me of Dave Chappelle. But I've never heard nobody be like, you're the next Steve Harvey. Like, like nobody never say no random shit like that. You're the next Cedric the Entertainer. Like, it's nothing. I think it just go by like,
what about Seinfeld?
How you look. They go by based off of how you look and what facial hair you got, nigga. If you look like that nigga at the time. Nigga told me I look like Richard Sherman, nigga.
That is not that far from the truth. I just now seen it outside banging on that woman's window. So at what point in time did you feel like, yeah, I'm on to something? Because when you first get on that stage, you wonder if you're funny. Like, you have people around in school telling you you're funny, your improv is funny, but as you mentioned on stage, you felt that I'm alone shit. And most comedians do bomb early. When did you finally know, like, this is what the fuck I am? I'm not somebody who's doing stand-up. I'm a stand-up comedian.
Probably like a lot of comedians will tell you either A, it was when I started making some money from it, or B, like when you sharing the stage with some of your contemporary greats that's like killing the game right now, and so you like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. More or less, it's confirmation that you're in the right place, where you're supposed to be.
And sort of along the lines of that question, do you remember the first time you just killed, where the crowd just went crazy, and your historical moment where when you left the stage, you walked off in slow motion?
I don't know. That's a good one. I don't know about that. I just know, like, I celebrated a small victory that was kind of big to me. Like, I remember getting heckled. I remember the first time, really, not first time, but like, I just remember it very well because it was very distinct. Like at the Hollywood Improv, I was doing a D-Ray show for the first time, and I had never did no fucking big show like that, I want to say. No, I did the Regal Theater before, but it wasn't like it was a different type of show. I ain't know about Mo Better Monday, so I went up there and going up there doing my shit. I thought it was gonna be funny, nigga. I remember too, niggas was rehearsing they shit too, like was making, like niggas was still writing that shit down, like the script and shit. It was practice that shit all day before we went to the Improv. Then went up to that motherfucker and did that shit. And motherfucker was started talking shit, nigga. What that nigga say, man? What the fuck that nigga say, man? I forgot. He said some shit. I can't remember what this nigga said. That shit was just so funny that a nigga was yelling out. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. And then, like, niggas was getting mad. It was almost like, nigga, I'm from Chicago, nigga. We finna go outside type shit. And, but it was like I had to fight them niggas. And I, like, from that day on, I was like, never again will a nigga talk during my shit. Like, ain't no fucking heckler finna run my shit, nigga, because I done worked too hard to even be in the room to do this shit. And now I'm distracted with you, nigga, who paid to come and fucking ruin the show. You paid to come and not pay attention. So after that, I went back to Jokes and Notes, R.I.P. And fucking somebody tried that shit again, and I was like, I started going in on everything. Like, they did grandma and all type of shit. And I was just like, never again. Like, no more like doors, nigga. I remember that shit. I was like, that shit ain't gonna happen to me again, nigga. That was a good show. That was a big show. I can't fuck this up. So it was cool to be able to go back and get some redemption when I end up doing another show with them, like in Texas. It was cool. Yeah, that was like when I was like, yeah, nigga. But it was, I can't think of the one time when I was like, yeah, finally.
What's the time contrastly to that you was like, fuck it, man, I'm just gonna quit? Have you ever had that feeling?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
It could be a show that you did good at. And inside my perspective, like, man, I fucked that shit up. Everybody else be like, you did good. That was funny. And I'm like, nigga, like, you ain't gotta lie to me, bro. Like, like you be sitting up here throwing shade at yourself. And I can't think of a time where I was in particular, but it's a frequent thing where you like, man, I'm finna quit this shit. This shit's stupid.
What motivates you to keep going when you get those feelings?
man, it's the fans that keep me going, man. It's the fans, man. They tell me don't stop, man. No, but really it is to a degree though. Like people be like, man, that was really good. And be like, for real? Because I thought that shit was trash. Like, and it's not that it's trash. A lot of time I'll be experimenting with shit. Like as far as new material and type of shit. So when it go well, then that's when I'm like, all right, I might be on to something. It's every time the new jokes go well, then I'm like, oh, okay, all right, well, I guess I can, yeah. But when people tell you shit like, man, it's like you can say anything up there, man, and I'm like, nigga, you know how hard I work to get to be able to say some shit like this? Because that shit crazy how it don't translate from your regular life onto the stage like everybody think. Like, I can get up there, man, I want to do this, man. If a motherfucker asks you afterwards, like, how do you get into this? Like, that's not really a good thing to me. Because I made them feel like it was doable. I feel it made it feel too accessible to them. But, but I always want to try it. I'm like, all right. But no, I'll tell them, I ain't gonna, like, information in public, I'll tell anybody how to start. Like, you know, comedy is, you know, subjective. Somebody might like you some kind of way. Like, I ain't gonna hate on that shit.
And what's the biggest life lesson that you learned during your time as a comedian? Like something that you learned in this industry or game that you can apply to everyday life?
Be consistent, probably. Consistency. That's probably, man, I gotta say, it's gotta be consistency. Continually doing shit, being out there, getting yourself out there, promoting yourself. Whatever it is you're doing, it's got to be consistent because motherfuckers got short-term memory loss because they got TikTok memories, nigga. Like, niggas don't even remember Vine, probably.
Right. What is that?
Right, so that's why I'm like,
do it for the Vine.
Be consistent. You said one thing, but if you doing what I'm doing, then you definitely gotta do that shit because you love that shit for real, and then it'll start to make sense, I guess, if you be consistent about it.
Is there anything you want to say to your fans or friends where they can follow you? Any upcoming shows that you have?
I want you all to follow me on YouTube at GoJasonR. Really all social media. Follow me at GoJasonR on all social media. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Vine. On MySpace, it's Alan Ritchey Productions. That page still exists some kind of way. Let's see. A lot of skits and sketches and funny shit on my pages and YouTube. New videos coming soon. And I'll be coming to a city near you, bitches. So please pay attention to those social media guys because I'd like you to come out. And when I say bitches, I mean that in the most endearing way, like women do to each other. Okay. No, guys. Come out to a comedy show near you, guys. I'll be in a city near you soon. I'll probably be in your city. Follow me at GoJasonR on all social media, guys. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Even TikTok, if you watch that shit. So, that's it. Subscribe.
Hey, thank you for your time, man. Really appreciate you here at the TCK Studios.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, Vlad.
Don't ever disrespect the game like that.